Good afternoon. My name is Leslie Gunter, and my research is on the evaluation of Strong Start for Preschool. It's a social-emotional learning curriculum. I'm a graduate student, and in my class the other day, my professor told us a story of a young kid that she was working with who had anxiety problems. After meeting with him for a number of sessions, she asked him what he had learned, just as a wrap-up conclusion to the sessions. What had he learned? And he said, "If I face my fears, they go away." So here I am in front of you today facing my fears, but I don't want you to go away. How many kids know that if they face their fears, they go away? It's important for children to learn these things, especially at a young age. Else they might be afraid of the monster in the closet for a long time. I don't know about you, but when I was younger, my parents did a good job of teaching me about emotions and how to react when things happen, whether good or bad. They taught me appropriate things such as say thank you when someone gives you a balloon, or don't cry for too long when your balloon floats up into the air. Parents may directly or indirectly teach their children about emotions and how to regulate their feelings through their example. Some parents may state direct things or just by the way they respond. If a child spills a bowl of cereal, the way the parent reacts to that will influence the child's reactions later. If the parent says, "Oh my goodness, what did you do?" and gets really mad at them, the child's going to maybe feel afraid and feel like they're not worth much because they spilled a bowl of cereal, and they'll learn that the appropriate response is to react angrily, and that's not always appropriate. Many children learn from their parents and other adult role models or their peers. They learn how to regulate and handle their emotions in ways such as using their fists or avoiding their emotions altogether, and neither of those are completely healthy. Many children have fears, worries, anxieties, concerns. That's just a part of growing up. But what is important is how they handle those feelings. Some children don't know how to handle those feelings and then just let all their worries and anxieties build up inside of them. And this matters to us in the schools. The number of children at risk increases as parents are busier and are dealing with their own life stresses. They may not be able to teach their children the things that they need to. Some events that put children at risk are societal factors, lack of family stability, child maltreatment, poverty, parental stress, physical or mental health on the part of the child or the parent. The tension and anxiety that parents have will resonate with their children. Children are smart and they pick up on the things that their parents are doing and how they handle situations. In the research of Dahl and Lyon in 1998, they note that when a student experiences two or more of such risk factors, the ones listed and other ones that are risk factors for children, the negative psychological consequences are multiplicative rather than additive, suggesting that certain life circumstances can be major stumbling blocks to a child if they lack the skills to manage the situations. According to the Children's Defense Fund, in 2007, 2,482 babies are born into poverty, 1,154 babies are born to teenage mothers, 2,421 children are confirmed as abused or neglected each day, 18,221 public school students are suspended, and 3,477 children are arrested, either for violence or drug crimes. Those statistics are pretty grim. Even though we cannot change the world, we can make a difference in the life of a child. The relationships we have with our students make a big difference. So what can we do about it in the schools? There's this thing called social emotional learning. It's a process and a framework whereby children are taught to identify and manage their emotions, recognize emotions in others, solve problems with peers, make good decisions, establish friendships, and handle challenges and situations effectively. Social emotional learning promotes positive behaviors as children learn what is socially appropriate. Social emotional learning is important for young children especially, as preschool is the time that they are learning how to handle social situations, maybe the first time that they are around peers and they're learning to form friendships. They're also at an age where they're developing the capacities to regulate their words, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. They need guidance in developing these capacities. In a positive environment where teachers and other educators are warm and nurturing, children can gain a sense of goodness, a belief that they are of worth, and a sense of safety in a sometimes uncertain world. Preschool children are also able to deal with social situations, relieve stress, and manage anger in a protective environment. Most educators won't get mad at children if they do spill their glass of water at snack time. They're paid to be nice, they have to be. Parents, on the other hand, don't always remember that it's just a glass of water, it's not that big of a deal. In addition to social interactions, positive social skills and the ability to form and maintain relationships are influential on later academic success and quality mental health. If children acquire maladaptive ways of interacting with others, they may be rejected by their peers due to their aggression or withdrawal from others. Early peer rejection is a predictor of later academic failure, school dropout, adolescent delinquency, and psychological difficulties such as depression and anxiety. Social emotional skills can be a buffer for children. By learning how to regulate their emotions and handle social situations, they can deal with problems that they have in their life. Although these skills can be a buffer, they're not an immunity. Social emotional skills are skills that allow children to calm themselves when they're angry, make friends, resolve conflicts respectfully, and resulting in successful interactions. These help a child foster resiliency, where they can counterbalance some of the adversity that they face in life and help them deal with family and social problems. Children who fail to acquire the empathy or social skills needed to be successful in making and keeping friends are at risk for a variety of social and emotional problems, ranging from isolation and peer rejection to loneliness, poor self-esteem, and even depression. And we don't want to have those happen in the schools. So some things that can be done to protect the children in addition to social emotional skills are positive temperament, positive social relationships, self-efficacy, self-esteem, connections to social institutions, and emotional regulation. In the research I did, it says that the knowledge gained in early preschool program can mean the difference between failing and passing, regular or special education, dropping out or graduating from high school, and possibly staying out of trouble or becoming involved in crime and delinquency. So it may seem that it's just preschool, but it makes a big difference. And that was shown a little bit in the earlier presentation. Arne Duncan, the United States Secretary of Education, said that social emotional skills are learned skills, and children can have huge challenges, but if you help them learn how to handle these challenges, deal with them, then you have a chance. When you don't, they can't get past those challenges and can't begin to think about what's going on in class. But these are absolutely teachable, learned skills. It's important to help children learn how to handle their feelings and emotions, especially when they deal with difficult times. The implications that this has in the school is if children are worried about other things, they're not able to focus on their academics. Just like with all of us, if we have weightier issues on our mind, we're not going to pay full attention to the task at hand. Like I said earlier, preschool is the age where children develop capacities to regulate words, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Emotional regulation is an essential skill for children. Children who are able to manage their emotions are better able to learn, pay attention, absorb information, and retain what they have learned, like I just mentioned. Internalizing behaviors are a problem in school. If children can't regulate their emotions, then the anxiety and worry build up inside of them and cause problems later on, such as anxiety or depression. They may not be quite as big of a problem right away, like externalizing behaviors, such as aggression and fighting, but they can lead to problems later on. They're less likely to be identified because they're internal, but it's still important to try to help the children, even if it's not a significant internalizing behavior disorder, such as anxiety or depression. A lot of kids still experience some sort of that scale in their lives. According to the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, there are 5 core social and emotional competencies that social and emotional learning programs should address. These include self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. The curriculum that I evaluated includes these, as it first teaches kids to recognize the emotions in themselves and then recognize the emotions in others. And it teaches them what to do when they are feeling certain ways, how to solve people problems, and to make responsible decisions when they are feeling certain ways. This is an early intervention program where it can be used as a class-wide intervention or intervention with small groups. The research that I did was a class-wide intervention. Other social-emotional curricula out there for preschool include I Can Problem Solve, Promoting Alternative Thinking Strategies, Safe and Caring Schools, Skills for School, Skills for Life, and then Strong Start Pre-K. There are a few other ones out there, but these are just the 4 that I looked at briefly. I looked at one extensively and then just a little bit on the other 3. I talked to the author of Strong Start Pre-K, and he said that all of the curriculum have advantages, but Strong Start Pre-K may have some advantages over other curricula in that it is relatively brief, easy to use, inexpensive, and requires little training. Some of these other programs have lengthy lessons that cover a span of 20 to 50 weeks, or they cost a lot of money, or they require a lot of training. Strong Start Pre-K is a social-emotional learning curriculum for students ages 3 to 5. It's been adapted from the Strong Kids curriculum that is a preventative program developed in collaboration with Oregon Resiliency Project, and it was tailored to be developmentally appropriate for preschoolers. The lessons are 20 to 30 minutes long rather than 40 to 50 like they are for older children. The content is unique to preschoolers' cognitive, social, and emotional needs. The lessons include an introduction to the curriculum, and then it talks about understanding your feelings. One of the core competencies was self-awareness, and so you need to recognize those emotions in yourself first. And lessons 2 and 3 go over that. They talk about what it means to be happy and angry, sad, surprised, disgusted, and worried. It talks about what it looks like, what it feels like, and then in lesson 4 it talks about when you're angry, what you do with it. The curriculum mentions that all emotions are okay to have, but it's just how you handle your feelings that matters. And it's not okay to hit people when you're angry, but it is okay to use certain strategies, such as listed in the curriculum, as stop what you're doing, count to 10, take a deep breath in, and take a deep breath out. The other lessons include when you're worried, understanding other people's feelings, being a good friend, solving people problems, and finishing up. The last lesson, entitled Finishing Up, is a good conclusion of the lessons, as it covers a little bit of everything that they've mentioned. But also, it focuses on finishing on a positive note, knowing that once you have these skills, then you can use them throughout your life. There are 2 additional booster lessons. The first one covers lessons 1 through 6, which focus on personal identification of feelings. And then booster 2 covers other people's feelings and recognizing those emotions in other people. So my research questions were, does Strong Start Preschool have an effect on students' internalizing behaviors, specifically a decrease in internalizing behaviors and an increase in emotional regulation? The second question was, is a preschool teacher able to implement Strong Start Pre-K with fidelity? And then this third one was, do teachers view Strong Start Pre-K as socially valid? So I used a non-equivalent control group design with the curriculum has 10 lessons, and we taught 2 a week for 5 weeks. And then one of the classes had 2 booster lessons. I used the internalizing behavior subscale on the preschool and kindergarten behavior scales, 2nd edition, by Merrill, 2002, and the emotional regulation subscale on the preschool behavioral and emotional rating scale, Pre-Bears, by Epstein and Sinhorst, 2009. Some of the questions are listed. And then just for personal information, we also did the student-teacher relationship scale to see if the curriculum would have any influence on the student and teacher relationships. My study was conducted in a Title I preschool with 4 teachers and 84 students. There was a treatment group and a treatment group with the booster lessons and then a control classroom. There were 42 boys and 42 girls, and I was really surprised that those numbers were even. So I was pleased with that. 67% of the students were Hispanic, 26% were Caucasian, 3.6 were biracial, 2% were Native American, and 1% was Black. So at the beginning, the treatment group had a mean score of 118 on internalizing behaviors. The cutoff score for moderate risk is 117. So as a whole, they were at moderate risk for internalizing behaviors. Glad I chose them as a treatment group. Even though I was randomly selected, it worked out really well. The treatment group with the booster lessons had a score of 89, and the control group had a score of 84. After having the teachers teach the curriculum for 5 weeks, the treatment group scores decreased by 13. The treatment group with boosters decreased by 5 points, and the control group decreased by 3 points. In a follow-up measure, to see if they were able to maintain these improvements, the treatment group scores increased slightly, but still a lot less than what they were before. The treatment group with boosters and the decreased, as they should, since booster lessons were taught in that time, and the control group increased slightly. This is just a graph that shows time 1, time 2, and time 3. The treatment group with boosters continued to decrease since there were booster lessons, and these effects were significant, the 0.001 level. With emotional regulation, the higher the score, the better. So the treatment group and the treatment group with boosters were both lower than the control group at the onset. After teaching the curriculum, all of the groups improved. And after the follow-up, after the booster lessons, the groups continued to improve. there was a significant change over time for all groups. So this was not significant with the interaction of teaching the curriculum. And then the student-teacher relationship scale has 3 subscales: conflict, closeness, and dependency. And I won't spend much time on this, but just noting that after teaching the curriculum, the scores decreased significantly, so the teachers reported less conflict with their students. They also reported being closer with their students, and this was not significant, but there was a significant amount of change over time. My hypothesis with this is that the teachers were able to become closer with their students as the year progressed. Same thing with the dependency. The scores were able to decrease with the treatment group with boosters and in the control group, but the treatment group teacher reported an increase in dependency after teaching the curriculum. The total score for student-teacher relationship increased. And I asked the teachers what they thought of the curriculum. They said that overall it was good, but there were just a few problems. The lessons took 18 to 26 minutes, but they believe that preschool children have a time span of no more than 15 minutes. The lessons did have some activities, but they wanted them to be more interactive with more hands-on activities so the children don't get restless. They also believe that there are a few certain aspects of the curriculum that should have been more understandable for preschool children. The changes they observed in their students were that they were able to get along better with their peers, and they used their words more than actions, which was really good, and they were able to use the stop, count, breathe in, breathe out method that I mentioned earlier. So in summary, the teachers reported a significant decrease in students' internalizing behaviors and a slight increase in emotional regulation. The teacher was able to implement the curriculum with 90% fidelity. That's including having components taught fully and partially. And teachers do view Strong Start Pre-K as socially valid, and most importantly, they would recommend it to other teachers. Some of the limitations were non-randomized treatment assignments, and that's just what happens in school since I can't go in and assign kids to certain treatment conditions. The teachers may have expected change since they were the ones teaching the curriculum and rating the students on their behaviors. This was done with a small sample for each treatment group, and that might affect the results. And then social desirability. I talked to some of the teachers, and they might have just been having a bad day, I'm not sure, but they were a little worn out with the curriculum, and they're like, how many more lessons do we have to teach? But in the rating scales, they agreed or strongly agreed with all of the questions that I asked. Are there any questions? Yes?
You mentioned that the curriculum or the program was, easy to implement and inexpensive. Can you kind of describe what it is? Is it a curriculum guide with, just like the teacher's guide that gives them the teacher the 10 lessons that they implement, or are there any materials for the kids?
It's a manual, and it has 10 partially scripted, highly structured lessons, and the teacher is able to just pick it up and go off of the sample script in there if they want, or they can have advanced preparation, which is preferred but not required. They use a book, and they have an extensive list that you can choose for each lesson, or you can just pick up a book from your classroom and focus on the specific emotion that you're focusing on that day.
So they use children's literature as a vehicle?
Yes. Yeah. And there are handouts to send home to the parents so they can understand what you're teaching. And there are some handouts or templates that are in the curriculum that you can copy and use for your classroom. And there's a CD that's included if you want to just plug that into your computer and project it on the overhead. Yes?
Were there any other SEL curricula involved? I mean, since the control group, particularly for emotional regulation, improved almost to the same degree as your
Right.
two test groups? I mean, it seems that there must have been some other SEL involved, or else the school itself was just doing a great job.
The teachers are just doing a good job.
Okay, but there was no
There
other.
wasn't another curriculum
okay.
involved. Any other questions? Yes?
Did you collect any information from the parents about whether or not the kids seem to be improving in their relationship with maybe siblings or adults in the home?
We didn't. Even though we had thought about it prior to the start of this, we realized that it would be a really big feat at this time. And it was hard enough to get the permission slips back from the parents. Since it is a Title I preschool, a lot of the parents aren't involved as much as we would like parents to be.
Was there any overlap in the control students with, relative to the teachers
No.
in the experimental group?
Nope. That's why we chose the particular teachers that we did, so there wouldn't be overlap. The teachers taught their morning and afternoon classes, and then the control classes were a separate classroom.
You did Strong Start Pre-K. Does this program has for kindergarten, first grade, does it go on?
Yes,
Or
it does.
It does.
There's a pre-K version, and then a kindergarten through second grade version,
Okay.
grades 3 to 5, 5 to 8,
Okay,
and
so
9 to
it's
12.
all- Okay.
Yeah. Yes?
Yeah, how did you measure the kind of fidelity? You mentioned it was about 90%, right?
Mhm. We had fidelity forms, treatment fidelity forms that just covered
Yeah, that kind of thing.
the objectives from each lesson, and we just created them. Since the curriculum has objectives outlined, we just wrote them down, and then if the teacher implemented all the components partially, all of the components fully, then would circle fully, and if they only did a few of them, then would mark partially, and if they didn't do any under that objective, then would mark none. Yes?
You referenced 3 or so other curriculums. I'm wondering
Mhm.
why the bend towards Strong Start Pre-K versus the others, and also you mentioned that the author himself gave you feedback on why he felt his program was better than those others.
Mhm.
But did you engage with anyone who had utilized the other 3 curricula to have some sort of level set besides just the author?
Okay. My professor that I'm working with at school has had previous experience with other versions of the curriculum, and he said that a preschool version had came out, and since I like preschoolers, we decided to do a study on that. And I was able to talk to the author, like you mentioned, and I wouldn't say that he said that his curriculum was better, because he recognized that there's importance in all of them. He just said that it was more feasible in a lot of schools, because you don't have to have all of the advanced training that others require. And there are only 10 lessons. Some of them have 52 lessons, one for every day of the year, and others require a lot more time and money. This one's pretty cheap in comparison to some of the others, but I wasn't able to talk to anybody that had used any of the other ones. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.